Let us pray. Heavenly Father, almighty and everlasting God, we thank you for all the gifts and encounters of this day. Help us to have the wisdom to reach out to those around us and not to prejudge them. Help us to understand that however we live our lives, they can be enriched further by other people. Help us to have the wisdom to acknowledge that we are all faced by difficult moral choices. O Lord, grant that we may continue to learn and change. Grant that our lives may help and enlighten others. Grant that we may remember that our deeds may change or inspire others in ways we could never have dreamt. Amen. This morning I want to share the reading from Deuteronomy 30:11-14. Surely this commandment that I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it too far away. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will go up to heaven for us and get it for us so that we may hear it and observe it. Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will cross to the other side of the sea for us and get it for us so that we may hear it and observe it. No, the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart for you to observe. Lent too is called the study of Bishop Degny. And for those of you that weren't here last week, we've got movie snippets from Les Miserables that we're showing, and each week we look at a different character. So if you're here for the first time this morning and wondering what's going on, that's what's going on. In Lent 1, we explored the ways experiences of life formed and eventually destroyed Fantine. Now let's look at how life formed Bishop Degny. Just for a moment, consider how you would have been shaped and formed by life. The study also looks at the old man, Monsieur G, and his relationship with the bishop. But I won't be unpacking that part of the study with you today, and will only make one comment in this regard later in my address. It's not part of the film snippet either, and it would complicate things for people not doing the study, but attending the Sunday sermon blocks in Lent. The novel unpacks a bishop's character in more detail than the film or the study, but basically he's a robust figure of kindness, grace, generosity, compassion, gentleness, forgiving, and he's very non-judgmental. And most importantly, he gives Jean Valjean the lifeline he needed to be a better man. The bishop also does not prejudge Valjean, and in doing so positively affects Valjean's life. In the novel, the bishop gives up his mansion so it can be used as a hospital for the sick and the poor, while he goes to live in the small hospital building next door. He is a man aware of the plight of the poor and those suffering. I could say more about the novel and his character, but this would lead me away from the impact the bishop had on Valjean's life and me unpacking the bishop's character in the study. The bishop marks a deeper journey of formation and the need for us to be open to the new and unexpected. We are challenged here in session 2 in regards to judging others. How far do we find ourselves judging others when we don't know their hearts, motivations, or what has led them into their situation or to act in a certain way? Jean Valjean, the newly released convict, is finding it hard to find work and fit in. People are judging him and are reluctant to show any compassion because they are afraid that he is a dangerous man. He is poor, very hungry, and has every right to be afraid and hold a grudge, but his life has a twist when he meets the bishop. We saw what happened in the movie snippet, how the bishop treats Valjean, as God treats us, with love. The bishop gives him respect, unlike the others who have judged him on face value, and with the papers he must produce, which have marked him a branded man, he has little hope of survival. The next day, having left early with the silver and being brought back by the constable, the bishop explains, "So there you are. I'm delighted to see you. Had you forgot that I gave you the candlesticks as well? They're silver like the rest and worth a good few hundred francs." Valjean is released and the gendarmes withdraw, and the bishop says to Valjean in a low voice so no one else in the room can hear, and they're very powerful words, they bring tears to the eyes. Do not forget that you have promised me to use the money to make yourself an honest man. Jean Valjean, my brother, he calls him my brother, showing respect and equality. You no longer belong to what is evil, but what is good. I have brought your soul to save it from the black thoughts and the spirit of perdition, and I give it to God. In Luke 6:37 and 38, we're told, do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. The Word became incarnate in Jesus, who was an advocate for social justice. In his act of kindness and love, the bishop virtually consecrates Valjean's life to God, and so he lives those words read from Luke throughout his life in thought, word and deed. Lent is a time for us to be reminded that Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, where he was tempted and prayed to come to terms with his future, where evil sought to overthrow goodness, where darkness wanted to overcome the light. I'm sure that Valjean, in his time of incarceration, would have wrestled with his inner demons. In the novel and in the study, there is a conversation the bishop has with Monsieur G, who says conscience is the amount of inner knowledge that we possess. This is the struggle that awaits Valjean in week 3 of the study, and he comes through with flying colours because of his self-knowledge, but more importantly, because of the choices he makes that form him. His formation through his experience of imprisonment, starvation, and much more radiates the words from Deuteronomy, leading in the bishop's example. No, the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart to observe. Our actions and words reflect our hearts and minds. God sees the heart. The sharing of the meal in the film snippet is also very powerful. In sharing bread and wine, food and hospitality, in the true biblical sense around the dinner table, the outsider, the man left for dead on the side of the road, in this case Valjean, symbolically speaking, is like the Good Samaritan, the story of the Good Samaritan, and the bishop comes to the rescue, treating him as a friend rather than the stranger that he is. The sharing and the breaking of the bread and drinking of the wine, although Valjean is not aware of it, is an invitation to the Lord's Supper, where sinners and saints, whole and broken, gather regardless, and where the outpouring of God's grace overflows. For Valjean, they represent no spiritual significance at this point in time. He arrives exhausted and afraid, defensive, starving, poor, and dispossessed. And the bishop does not use his position of power to render Valjean powerless by treating him like an unwanted dog looking for food in the back streets of some poor country struck by war, famine, or some other inferno. In Luke 24:28 to 31, we're told, as they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it's almost evening, and the day is nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. Just as Cleopas and his friends' eyes were open in the breaking of the bread, and they knew it was Jesus, in session 3, Valjean's eyes are open when he comes to himself after stealing from the bishop. We don't know if Valjean had any knowledge of Christianity, but the truth is that parts of our society doesn't either. The point is, it was not through teaching that the bishop communicated his message, but through his love and respect for Valjean. We are called to do the same in our encounters today. Finally, I end with the words from the song in the scene in the film called The Bishop. Monsieur, we have your silver. We caught this man red-handed. He had the nerve to say you gave him this. That is right. But my friend, you left so early. Surely something slipped your mind? You forgot I gave you these also. Would you leave the best behind? So, messieurs, release him. This man has spoken true. I commend you for your duty, and God's blessings go with you. But remember this, my brother. See in this some higher plan. You must use this precious silver to become an honest man, by the witness of the martyrs, by the passion of the blood. God has raised you out of darkness. I have saved your soul for God. But remember this, my brother. See in this some higher plan. You must use this precious silver to become an honest man. By the witness of the martyrs, by the passion and the blood, God has raised you out of darkness. I have saved your soul for God. Lent to the Bishop of Deneen. Amen.